Call 1-800-561-2049. That's 1-800-561-2049 now.
In Fairfax, Virginia, A-list celebrity, movie star, and millionaire Johnny Depp scheduled to be in court this April. He hasn't been charged with a crime. He is suing his ex-wife, Amber Heard, for defamation. It's a civil case, so we expect Johnny Depp and his movie star ex to both testify.
Also pulled me aside and said, we can make sure you're safe. Just say a statement or give us a statement and we'll go get the guy.
And talk about their volatile marriage. The issue for this jury, did Amber Heard lie about being a victim of domestic violence?
No, I didn't. What the are you talking about? And I watched you lie, and then I
didn't punch you.
On the docket tonight in Redwood City, California, convicted wife and unborn baby killer Scott Peterson trying to get his conviction overturned because of juror misconduct. Tonight, the latest from today's hearing in court.
She feared for the life of her unborn child. That's relevant information that needs to be presented to the court prior to being seated on that jury.
Plus, Tiger King star Carol Baskin on TikTok dancing to a song about her missing husband, reacting to the lyrics, and denying she had anything to do with it. Tonight's 13th juror question. Do you think this TikTok video makes Carol Baskin look more suspicious or less suspicious? Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of closing arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And I want to begin the show a little differently tonight. I want to start with a little bit of a riddle. And I know you, as true crime fans, will take the opportunity to try to solve this whole thing before it's over. But it's about some people and what they have in common. So I'm going to go through a list of people and think to yourself, what do these people have in common? Let's begin. Elon Musk. You know who Elon Musk is, right? Mr. Tesla, billionaire, world's richest guy, SpaceX, all of that, okay? So think of Elon Musk first. Second, what does he have in common with this man? James Franco, celebrated actor, been nominated for an Oscar, won a Golden Globe. He's also a filmmaker, very celebrated in the film industry, okay? So now we've got Elon Musk, James Franco, and one more I'll throw at you. Johnny Depp. There he is. You know Johnny. I mean, I know Johnny Depp from back on 21 Jump Street when his career really started and then took off. Pirates of the Caribbean, obviously, Edward Scissorhands. This guy in 2012 set a world record as the highest paid actor anywhere of all time. So extremely celebrated actor, a little quirky though, right? A little quirky. So what do Elon Musk, James Franco, and Johnny Depp all have in common? Well, they are all scheduled and expected to testify in court, in a trial, with a camera in the courtroom that you'll see right here on your front row seat to justice. Okay, let me tell you what the case is and what it's all about. Whew, it's a defamation case. It is Johnny Depp versus his ex, Amber Heard. And in this case, it all starts and is based upon something that Amber Heard said in an op-ed from the Washington Post, where she said, "I spoke up against sexual violence and faced our culture's wrath. That has to change." That was something that was published in the Washington Post back in 2018. Now, in this article, she doesn't name her ex, Johnny Depp, but Johnny Depp is alleging that is the statement that defamed him, that ruined and destroyed his career. He lost Pirates of the Caribbean. He lost other parts, amounting to millions of dollars, tens of millions of dollars. Now, I want to play for you a little bit of Amber Heard here. This is from a deposition in 2016. The two of them, they were married for just over a year, 2015 into 2016. Then they were divorced. It was a bitter, bitter divorce. But at the heart of this whole defamation case is the allegation by Amber Heard that she was the victim of domestic violence, and Johnny Depp making the allegation that none of that is true. So let's get to some of what this is based upon in terms of what happened in the lives and the relationship of these two, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Here's Amber Heard, August 13th, 2016, deposition.
House on May 21, 2016, that Johnny Depp had ever done anything wrong to you, that night or before?
You're asking me if I've told them?
If you told them on May 21, yes.
Again, I said to them, I declined to give any statement at this time as per the advice of my counsel.
Did the police?
They did make a comment to me about it seeming unsafe. That's why they needed to check the apartment. They made a gesture to my face. They said that I looked hurt. They also pulled me aside and said, look, just say a statement. We can make sure you're safe. Just say a statement or give us a statement and we'll go get the guy. And they said the exact same thing to Josh.
Is it your testimony that a police officer on May 21
yes.
told you that it appeared you looked hurt?
He or she gestured, I can't remember which one, to my face and said, we can tell you've been hurt or you don't look good or something to that effect, but I don't remember the exact words they used.
But something to that effect?
Yeah.
So this is an allegation related to something that happened in 2016. Now she's alleging that she's the victim there and describing kind of what happened when officers responded to that. Now, let me read for you from Johnny Depp's complaint where he has a completely different take on what happened back in 2016. And in the complaint, Johnny Depp alleges that the op-ed's clear implication, again, putting the op-ed together with what happened in 2016, is that Mr. Depp is a domestic abuser, is categorically and demonstrably false. Mr. Depp never abused Ms. Heard. Her allegations against him were false when they were made in 2016. They were part of an elaborate hoax to generate positive publicity for Ms. Heard and advance her career. Ms. Heard's false allegations against Mr. Depp have been conclusively refuted by two separate responding officers, a litany of neutral third-party witnesses, and 87 newly obtained surveillance camera videos. So, you've got a he said, she said about what exactly is going on in this relationship. She's claiming to be a victim of domestic violence, wrote about that in that op-ed, didn't name Johnny Depp, but they are alleging the clear implication is it refers to Johnny Depp because publicly she spoke about this in 2016. He's saying it's all false. She's saying it's true. That's what this case is about. That's what the case is about. You know, in defamation cases, the number one defense to defamation, there are many of them, but the first one is the truth. If what I said was true, I cannot defame you. You can't sue me for defamation. You can't win if what I said was true, and that's what she's saying. Everything she said was true. Johnny Depp saying, no, it's false. You knew it was false, and you did it to ruin my career. You knew exactly what would happen. This trial's happening in April. It's coming up in just a few weeks. Let's bring in our think tank. Joining us tonight in the Bronx, New York, criminal defense attorney Renee Hill. In Houston, Texas, criminal defense attorney Carmen Rowe. And in Atlanta, Georgia, criminal defense attorney, law professor at Emory University and Georgia Innocence Project board member Molly Palmer. Great to see everyone tonight. All right, Renee, I will begin with you. Two big celebrities here. Volatile relationship. It didn't last long. Things got ugly. But now it's all about defamation and what did or did not happen. What is this trial going to look like inside that courtroom?
I think it's going to be almost like a movie. You have these big celebrities that are going to be testifying. You know that you're going to hear from both of them. You're going to hear both sides. And then we're going to hear from other witnesses, unrelated, that will come in, and they're going to talk about what they observed. The police officers are key in this case that responded to the scene at the time that any allegations were made or phone calls were made requesting the police to come out. So I think it's going to turn on what those officers have to say, because obviously, like you said, they have to get to whether or not the statements were true. And if they were true, then she's going to walk away. But if they are not true, she's going to be opening up that purse and then shelling out a lot of coin.
Yeah, this was such a toxic relationship, Carmen. I think a lot of people at home can relate to that if they've been in one or know someone that's been in that relationship where these two people just should not be together. And that is clear to me. But the question is, this jury now has to figure out exactly is what was going on, who was right, who was wrong, and who was the aggressor.
Vinnie, absolutely. And this is going to be a tough battle because we have some prior findings that the allegations against Johnny Depp in this case are substantially true, according to the United Kingdom case. And there have been other findings, including her getting a restraining order shortly after the divorce was filed, where she had to make a showing to get that order that she was abused. So, you know, Johnny Depp says none of it's true. This is going to be a he said, she said. It's going to be a star-studded event, and it's going to get ugly. Now,
it's a civil case. So, Molly, not only is there the complaint, whenever you get sued, and when I practiced civil law, this was very common. If my client gets sued, well, we're going to deny it. And then guess what? We're going to sue you in a counterclaim. So here's Amber Heard's counter complaint against Johnny Depp. Remember, he sued her for $50 million for defamation. Here's what Amber Heard has to say. Before he was even married to Ms. Heard, Mr. Depp threatened to kill her and otherwise harm her in private messages to friends. These threats were realized in the form of the rampant physical violence and abuse Ms. Heard suffered at Mr. Depp's hands before and during their marriage. The frivolous lawsuit Mr. Depp has filed against Ms. Heard continues that abuse and harassment. Mr. Depp and/or his agents acting on his behalf have orchestrated a false, ready, and defamatory smear campaign against Ms. Heard that has included false and defamatory statements to reporters, repeatedly accusing Ms. Heard of being a liar and a hoax artist, and accusing Ms. Heard of the crime of perjury. Through this counterclaim, Ms. Heard is finally, after all these years fighting back, Ms. Heard asked this court to hold Mr. Depp fully and finally accountable for his conduct and to end Mr. Depp's abuse lodged from a position of wealth and power. And she is asking for $100 million, Molly Palmer, which Johnny Depp has. You know, it's not like we're asking for numbers that can't be paid here. These are superstars. So she's now countersuing against him for the same thing, defamation. And today in court, Johnny Depp tried to get it tossed, the counterclaim, but the judge said, no, the jury's going to hear it all. So this is interesting for a jury, right? Because you got one side accusing and one side accusing. You've got to figure out, first of all, who's right, who's wrong, what it's worth, who's telling the truth. Not an easy job for the jury.
No, and I think all of these intersecting legal principles is going to make it really complicated too. So Johnny Depp, as you said, asked the court to dismiss her countersuit. But what the court said was that, listen, you know, what she's basically alleging is that your lawsuit is a nuisance, and she was just writing this op-ed, which was it discussed an issue of public concern. And so we have what we call anti-slap laws that say you are allowed under the First Amendment to discuss things that are of public concern. So in this case, domestic violence. And so now basically she has that as an additional defense to truth, right? That this is not defamation because it's an issue of public concern and she should be allowed to speak about domestic violence to the masses. So really legally complicated. And of course, I think, you know, like Renee said, like a movie, fascinating stuff.
All right, let me ask you, Renee Hill. Johnny Depp, obviously there's a little bit of has been taken from his star that was shining so brightly, right? People aren't hiring him, but he's alleging that's part of the damage here. But how does that play in front of a jury in terms of credibility, which is the essence of this case, is going to be his credibility versus her credibility, how it matches up with what other people have to say. But do you think his star factor can still shine inside of a courtroom when he gets on the witness stand?
Of course it can. I believe that it can, but the jurors are going to, they're going to have to separate that when they go into deliberations. And it's going to be hard, because it's going to come down to a personality contest. Who do they like more? Who do they want to believe? Who do they believe based upon what they hear? And of course, the burden of proof in civil cases is different than what it is in criminal cases. It's a lower standard. And so I think that with all of the finger pointing that's going to be going on, it's going to be extremely difficult for jurors to figure out what's happening here and whether or not they should find fault.
Yeah, I always find it fascinating, too, when actors are in court. I mean, jurors know that they're actors, so
right.
How do you judge the credibility of someone who can become anyone and convince you? We watch these movies, whether it's Amber Heard or Johnny Depp, we watch these movies and wow, these performances are so real, so powerful, but now it's real life. What's real, what isn't real? Let's do this. When we come back, we're going to talk about what Carmen mentioned. There was a trial that was very similar to what we are going to see in Virginia. It happened, though, in the UK. Johnny Depp didn't do that well in that case. Will that impact this case? Does that give us any idea the way this testimony and these allegations will be heard by an American jury versus some UK judges?
traveled here to the UK to testify as a witness to assist the court. After obtaining a restraining order in 2016 and finalizing my divorce, I just wanted to move on with my life. I did not file this lawsuit, and despite its significance, I would have preferred not to be here in court.
That's Amber Heard. She was over in the UK testifying the last time Johnny Depp was in a courtroom involving issues related to his relationship with Amber Heard and whether or not he is an abuser, whether or not he committed acts of domestic violence. He sued one of the tabloids over in the UK. So he wasn't suing Amber Heard like here in the United States. The suit was a little bit different. Ted Rowlands has the story tonight.
Actor Johnny Depp, who was hoping a British court would help restore his image and kickstart his career, instead was dealt a major blow by a judge, dismissing his claims against a British tabloid. Depp sued The Sun for libel after a 2018 article called him a wife-beater, but Justice Andrew Nicol of the High Court of England sided with the newspaper, saying what they published was, quote, substantially true. The ruling comes after weeks of salacious testimony and video and audio evidence presented to the court during a trial in London.
Oh, you're crazy. Are you crazy?
Have you drunk this whole thing this morning?
Oh, you got this. You got this going?
Just started it.
Oh, really? Really?
Front and center at trial was Depp's ex-wife, Amber Heard. Called as a witness by The Sun, she testified about 14 separate incidents of physical and emotional abuse beginning in early 2013 and ending in May of 2016, just before the couple agreed to separate. She secretly recorded Depp during what she characterized as drunken, drug-induced rages.
No, I didn't. What are you talking about? And I watched you lie, and then I
didn't punch you,
and
by
then
the way. I'm sorry that I didn't
punch
hit you. It has been incredibly painful to relive the breakup of my relationship, to have my motives, my truth questioned, and the most traumatic and intimate details of my life with Johnny shared in court and broadcast to the entire world.
Not sure I deserve that. Depp claims his career has been damaged by allegations of abuse, citing his removal from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise in 2018. Around the same time, Amber Heard wrote about being the victim of abuse in an op-ed published in the Washington Post. The article didn't actually name Depp, but that isn't stopping him from suing her for $50 million in the state of Virginia.
And that case, again, beginning this April. I mean, we're just weeks away. Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. She's countersuing for $100 million. Let's bring back in our think tank, Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Molly Palmer. Carmen, one thing, in this case, this is a very legal kind of issue, but I think we have to deal with it. Her attorneys here were trying to use the UK verdict to get this case dismissed. Saying, listen, this already was in front of a court and we're trying to get it dismissed, but I mean, things are it's a little bit different, isn't it? I mean, first of all, this is the United States, that's the United Kingdom, number one. Number two, the parties are a little different, and the rules are a little different.
Vinnie, totally different. The UK has a completely different legal system than the one that we use here. And as you said, the parties are completely different. And in this situation, we have Johnny versus his ex-wife directly. And as we pointed out, you know, the son was the actual litigant in the previous case, and she was just a witness. This is her opportunity to put forward whatever evidence she has that hasn't been presented, as well as some of these celebrity witnesses who were friends with them as a couple, who may be able to tell us a little bit more about what was going on in that relationship and in their house beyond the videos that we saw some pieces of today.
Absolutely, and what Johnny Depp is alleging is that he's got 87 surveillance videos that were newly uncovered. A lot of evidence in this case. This is not a simple case, Molly. We've been saying it from the beginning. But what do you think is more powerful, will have more of an impact on this case? the world we live in now, this sort of with the aftermath of the Me Too movement, where there seems to be much more success in courtrooms by accusers. Amber Heard would be an accuser in this case, even though she was the original defendant here, but she's the accuser, accusing him of domestic violence. Or the star power of Johnny Depp, or is that neutralized by the star power of Amber Heard?
Right. I mean, I think it is neutralized because they are big stars. I mean, they met on the set of The Rum Diary, based on one of my favorite books by one of my favorite authors. And so all of this is really interesting, I think, from the perspective of how high profile both of them are. But I think what we're going to see in terms of the Me Too aspect is that Johnny Depp's team is going to really get into her credibility a lot more in this trial. They tried to do that after the UK decision was handed down. They petitioned the court to appeal, and they brought this evidence saying, listen, she has credibility issues. Ultimately, the UK court said, no, we're not going to even grant you the right to appeal. So that kind of left it dead in the water. But I think that same strategy in the face of kind of a post-Me Too climate, we will see in this trial in Fairfax for sure.
And Renee, rules different in a civil case. Nobody has the right to just say nothing. Either party can be called by the other party. You can, and you know, he's got to testify. She's going to testify. You're going to have people like Elon Musk who are on the witness list. James Franco, Ellen Barkin. This is going to be much different than most trials that we see on court TV, because these are going to be witnesses who are so used to the spotlight, so used to. And I don't want to say performing, they're used to performing. I don't want to say being on the witness stand is performing, but it kind of is, because all eyes are on you. Everyone's listening to every word that you're saying. And to me, that will be a difficult thing to really grasp. Who's telling me the truth? The way I see it's going to happen is whoever's testifying, that's who I'm believing. And then another one will get up there, oh, I believe them. I think this is going to be tough.
Yeah, and exactly like you said before, it is going to be difficult to determine, are they acting or are they being truthful? You know, when you have witnesses that come in and testify who have never been in a courtroom before and they get on the witness stand, it's traumatizing for a lot of people, and it's very frightening, and they're nervous and they don't know, how loud they should talk, and they might stumble over their words a little bit more. And these individuals, like you said, have been in front of the camera for decades. Right?
And it's interesting.
All of this being on them, eyes all on them.
Not only in front of the camera, but it's kind of like when you have a show, you test it out in the UK, then you bring it back to the United States. And I mean, they all testified already and faced tough cross-examination. So everyone's going to be prepped for this, Carmen. And
they've probably all been deposed as well, because in civil cases, they do depositions. So there's already testimony that they have under oath that will be used in cross-examination, but they've already seen a preview, not only from the trial that they had in the UK, but also from the depositions. They're going to know what questions are going to be asked of them, and they already know how they want to respond.
Yeah, this is not going to be one, Carmen, where anyone's going to hold back. I mean, when Johnny Depp's on the stand, I mean, they're going to go after him. When she's on the stand, it's going to be the same thing. It's not like sometimes in the criminal cases, I'm going to take it a little bit easy. I don't want to. No, I think they're both going to be in attack mode.
Vinnie, absolutely. And once you've lost once, it's like you're going to dig in now. And so, the gloves are off. Again, I think this is going to get real ugly in a hurry. And I think it's going to be fascinating to watch, because there may be some normalization of the famous people in the room. But keep in mind, I mean, all of these people are talking about not a character, not a fake person in the world, but their own personal lives, their own drinking, their own drug use, et cetera, which necessarily is going to come into this. So it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out and who's actually willing to come into the courtroom and talk about that.
All right. Think Tank staying with us. Still ahead. On the docket tonight in Redwood City, California, convicted wife and unborn baby killer Scott Peterson trying to get his conviction overturned because of juror misconduct. Tonight, the latest from today's hearing in court.
She feared for the life of her unborn child. That's relevant information that needs to be presented to the court prior to being seated on that jury.
Plus, Tiger King star Carol Baskin on TikTok dancing to a song about her missing husband, reacting to the lyrics, and denying she had anything to do with it. Tonight's 13th Juror question. Do you think this TikTok video makes Carol Baskin look more suspicious or less suspicious?
The attitude and conduct of jurors at all times are very important. It is rarely helpful for a juror at the beginning of deliberations to express an emphatic opinion on the case or to announce a determination to stand for a certain verdict. When one does that at the outset, a sense of pride may be aroused, and one may hesitate to change a position even if shown it is wrong. Remember that you are not partisans or advocates in this matter. You are impartial judges of the facts.
That was the judge years ago instructing the jury who convicted Scott Peterson, sent him to death row. An appellate court has taken him off of death row, but still serving life without the possibility of parole for the murder of his pregnant wife, Lacey, and their unborn son, Connor. Now, that same jury now under a spotlight as Scott Peterson attempts to have that conviction overturned and get a brand new trial so many years later. Ted Brolins has more.
The California Supreme Court has ordered that a lower court must decide if Scott Peterson deserves a new trial because a juror withheld information about her past. Rochelle Neese served on the 2004 jury that convicted Peterson of killing his wife, Lacey, and unborn son, Connor. What Neese failed to tell the court during jury selection was that when she was pregnant in the year 2000, she asked for a restraining order against her boyfriend's ex-girlfriend, writing in the order application she, quote, fears for her unborn child. In Peterson's habeas appeal, he argued Miss Neese gave false answers to get on the jury because this case, like Miss Neese's past case, involved harm to an unborn child. The state Supreme Court, with its ruling, seems to agree that the issue needs to be reviewed. The state, on the other hand, says the argument, quote, borders on the ridiculous. Scott Peterson's sister-in-law, Janie, has been fighting for Peterson's release since his conviction.
She feared for the life of her unborn child. So, you know, when you're looking to be seated as a juror in a trial where a pregnant woman was murdered, that's relevant information that needs to be presented to the court prior to being seated on that jury.
In 2017, the juror, Rochelle Neese, did an interview with the Modesto Bee, denying she lied to get on the jury.
Scott's appeal lawyers are making up this story. I did not lie to get on this trial to fry Scott. I did not. That was not my intention.
All right, so back in court today, again, juror number 7, in the crosshairs of Scott Peterson and his defense team. Let's bring in Court TV legal correspondent Joy Lim-Nakrin, who is here tonight following everything that happened today. So what happened today?
So the major headline out of the evidentiary hearing today is that Shireen Anderson, a documentary filmmaker who is actually behind the A&E network documentary film, The Murder of Lacey Peterson, well, the defense wanted her to testify about juror number 7, Strawberry Shortcake, Rochelle Neese, or Nice. She refused to testify. And, you know, her attorneys basically tried to rely on this California shield. You and I were discussing this because she is a journalist, and part of this discussion was not actually published. She had immunity. That's what their argument was. Defense was pushing back on that. But ultimately, they came to an agreement on a stipulation where essentially her lawyer recounted what she would have said had she appeared today to testify herself. And that worked for everyone, apparently.
Okay, so what they're trying to get to is that juror 7, Strawberry Shortcake, we all remember her from the trial, had some sort of agenda, was not open-minded, had her mind made up. I mean, what exactly, yeah. What's the root of what they're really alleging she did wrong? Yeah, so bias, you know, this misconduct that, you know, we've talked about the fact that, you know, there are these allegations that she hid. She was a domestic violence victim and a domestic violence victim while she was pregnant, no less. But there's also this discussion about little man, which is allegedly what she called Connor Peterson, the unborn child who Scott Peterson is convicted of killing. So Shireen Anderson, this documentary film producer, essentially she has put on the record in a prior interview with district attorneys and investigators that she went to Neese's home when she interviewed her back in 2017. And when she was there, she saw a photograph on the wall. And well, here's what she said. Let me just read from the interview, the quote there. So it says, there was a wall of photographs of family members and kids. There was a baby, photograph of a baby and a onesie, wearing a onesie, and I think, you know, an infant, maybe 9 months, 10 months, something like that. And on the onesie, it said, little man. So this is the piece of evidence that the defense
wanted before the court.
Okay, so that she called her own child little man or some little child?
There's a baby, a picture of a baby on the wall at Niece's home wearing an outfit that says little man.
Okay.
Now, what's the meaning of that?
And she had referred to Connor
as little man.
As little man. Okay, I'm not going to be deciding this. I'm not the judge, but it just sounds like they're like grasping at straws.
You think it's a loose connection? Yeah.
I think they're grasping at straws there. Like, if she lied on the questionnaire, I get it, but this little man thing,
yeah.
I mean, that's a very common term, first of all. Maybe she calls every little baby little man.
That's exactly what the counter argument would be, that's just what she calls, little babies, calls them little man.
Matter of fact, my youngest, for a while, I was calling him little man.
Oh, yeah?
So, get over here, little man. Yeah, I mean, it's not like it's, I don't know.
Well, good thing you weren't a juror there.
Yeah, exactly. I would have been tossed immediately. Anything else we need to know tonight?
So this evidentiary hearing is going to continue into tomorrow. As of this afternoon, there was a former East Palo Alto police clerk that was testifying. So perhaps we're going to see more investigators testify tomorrow. But of course, we're going to be keeping track.
Okay. Joy Lim Nakrin, thank you so much. Let's bring back in the think tank. Can't call any of them little man, because look at it, it's all women. So, Molly Palmer, you do incredible work for the Innocence Project. And I really focus on that first word. It's not the Not Guilty Project, it's the Innocence Project, where people who are actually innocent are convicted. Not people who are guilty are convicted, then they're trying to get out because somebody said little man. Is this a real issue? Come on.
Yeah, it is a real issue, because here's the thing. It's not just that she lied on her juror questionnaire. It's why did she lie? It's not just that she has apparently some child, perhaps her own, that she calls little man, and also called the victim in the case little man immediately when she went into that juror deliberation room. It's that this woman was incredibly fixated on this desire to serve and to convict, okay? That is what all of this goes to. And you are entitled under the Constitution to a fair and impartial jury, and she was not an unfair and impartial juror. And so that's what the issue is. And here's the other really fascinating thing about her. I mean, besides the fact that she lied and she seems to conflate this nickname with the nickname of Connor, she also wrote Scott Peterson over a dozen letters when he was incarcerated post-verdict. One of them was even from, she called it a mental institution where she was. There is a major issue with this juror. And if Scott Peterson did not have fair and impartial jurors, and if she cannot be one of those, then I think we got a huge problem here.
Carmen Rowe, does it play into the equation at all, the fact that she was actually dismissed as a juror, but the defense begged for her to be brought back and rehabilitated her and got her on the jury?
Vinnie, that's a problematic fact, but no. At the end of the day, the lies, and I mean plural, that this woman has told in the course of things is troubling. The fact that she's the one who came up with a name for this deceased child is a problem. Her bias is clear. And as someone else on this program has pointed out, you're entitled to 12 independent, impartial jurors. So does it matter that you had 11 other fair jurors and one that was unfair? Absolutely, it matters. And more importantly, to suggest that this fiery red-haired woman did not have a dominating effect and impact inside that jury room, to me is ridiculous, because she had that effect the moment she walked out of the room and was given a microphone.
Renee Hill, you know who else had a name for that unborn child? Lacey. That name was Connor. She named the baby. I mean, she was beyond, I mean, it was any day now that Connor was going to be born. Lies, we talked about lies. Well, do the lies or alleged lies of the juror outweigh the lies of Scott Peterson that the jury weighed themselves in determining that, yes, he is a double murderer?
Well, Vinnie, the lies that this woman told to get herself on the jury
alleged
is
lies.
what we have to, it's what these jurors are going to have to determine, right? Or the court is going to have to determine. And we don't know what the influence was that she had upon the rest of the jurors in that deliberation room. She could have swayed the whole jury. So whether or not the lies, the alleged lies that you say were told during the course of the trial, how the deliberations took place in that jury room focused around this particular juror, if they did, that could impact everything. You can have one juror that can sway an entire jury. And if she was that one, it's a huge problem here. And like Carmen has said, and like Molly has said, he was entitled to 12 jurors. That's our system, fair and impartial. If you have one bad apple in there mixing things up, it creates a huge problem because now his rights have been violated.
Now, the reason I say alleged liar is because I do the same thing for people accused of killing people. So they get a presumption of innocence. I would hope that someone serving their civic duty who got a notice in the mail would get that same presumption up until the point that the judge determines that she lied. But yeah, it's a real issue. It's a real issue. All right, stay where you are. So when we come back, we're going to talk about Carole Baskin. Who's she? From the Tiger King? Carole Baskin? You don't know Carole Baskin? There she is. All right, all you cool cats and kittens. She was on TikTok today and apparently taking part in a TikTok video about murdering her missing husband and feeding him to tigers. Oops.
4.
Carol Baskin killed her husband, whacked him. Can't convince me that it didn't happen. Fed them to tigers, they snacking. What's happening? Carol Baskin.
What was that? Well, you know, I guess people have fun on TikTok. But that's Carol Baskin. You remember her from the Tiger King. A big theme of the Tiger King docuseries was that she somehow may have been involved in what happened to her missing husband. I mean, the guy's never been found, and here's a song about her killing him and feeding him to her tigers, and she's denying it all. But does this make her look better or worse? Posted on social media. Our 13th juror comment of the day, Tracy. I always thought 100% she killed her husband. Yes, this makes it worse in my eyes. Yikes. Not good. All right, let's bring back in our think tank Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, and criminal defense attorney, law professor, Georgia Innocence Project board member, and attorney for Tiger King, Joe Exotic, Molly Palmer is with us. Molly, your thoughts about what we just saw from this TikTok video?
You know, I would encourage anybody to read our filings. We are about to file an appeal in the 10th Circuit and a motion for new trial in the district court. Carol Baskin dancing, I can't pay attention to this because for me, the miscarriages of justice that occurred throughout this trial and that have plagued my client are so heinous that it's not like funny to me. Like I'm not in the movie. If I want to be on TV, you know, I'll go down court TV. But you know, I really encourage the world to pay attention to what has happened. There's a lot of misconceptions about Joseph Maldonado. But Tracy, the viewer, I think what she said is not a misconception at all. Free Joe Exotic, arrest Carol Baskin. I'll leave you with that.
All right. Wow. Diane tonight. I don't know if it makes her look guilty or not, but I feel it's definitely in poor taste. It was her husband after all, so just out of respect for her marriage to him and the loss of life, it's not something that should be joked about. Carmen Rowe, that's another part of the mystery here. We don't even, I mean, I think some people are alleging that he like just ran off somewhere.
Vinnie, come on. There's enough trials on court TV to know that's not true. I'm with Molly. I don't think it's funny. I don't think it's appropriate. I think poor taste it is. And, you know, everything about this woman is suspicious. Her missing husband, the TV show, her internet rants, and now this.
Cynthia, no one will ever know where her husband really is, and she doesn't seem to think anyone ever will. If only tigers could talk. Renee Hill, I'm going to put you on the spot here. Did you take the time to watch Tiger King?
I couldn't get through all of it.
Did you watch Tiger King 2? Because apparently I'm in Tiger King 2.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh,
I am in Tiger King 2.
I might have to then watch it, Vinnie, just to, you know, get the full picture here. But
Don't you think it's in poor taste? Poor taste?
It's absolutely in poor taste. It's disgusting. Her husband is missing, never been found. The allegations are that she had something to do with it and had something to do with him actually being murdered, and she's on a TikTok dancing. I think it's absolutely disgusting. It should not be that. You just don't do things like that.
Crystal tonight, first off, ain't nothing funny about this. That man has a family that is still looking for him. She is insensitive and pathetic. Molly Palmer, I wonder how his family is doing. Have you had any contact with him? Because I know John Phillips has been in contact with them as well.
No, I haven't had any contact with his family. I will say, you know, kind of in a similar vein, you know, this man is missing and presumed to be dead, right? And my client is currently serving 17 years of a 21-year sentence for this alleged plot to kill Carol Baskin. And she was never harmed. She was never, there was nothing that happened to her, and this man is dead, okay? And the idea that somebody is sitting in prison for 17 years for this plot, and she has had no consequence for this man who is truly, I mean, he has to be deceased. That is disproportionate justice. That is not equal justice under the law. And I think that is the point here.
Great job, everyone. Renee Hill, Carmen Rowe, Molly Parmer, appreciate the passion. We'll see you again real soon. Don't go anywhere, folks.
There's cash back in everything you buy.
In California City, California, a major new development in the disappearance of the Cal City toddlers, Orrin and Orson West. The toddlers' parents are charged with their murders, and now they have been ordered to have no contact with their other 4 children.
Where are the boys? No boys! No peace!
In tonight's Unsolved Case File in Indianapolis, Indiana, the tragic disappearance of 30-year-old Naja Farrell in 2019. Her foot was found in a retention pond, but investigators still don't know what happened or who is responsible.
One day I talked to her, the next day she was gone. It's like a disappearing act.
In Kern County, California, officers pursue a suspect who takes a hostage. We take a look at this extremely tense video with our own law enforcement experts.
Back away!
We'll back up. Put it down.
Back off of me now!
And in Atlanta, Georgia, officers try to save a man threatening to jump from an overpass. We break down what happened during crime time.
Be very, very careful. Please. We'll get you some help.
Buckle your seatbelts. This hour of Closing Arguments starts right now. I'm Vinnie Politan. Great to have you with us here on Closing Arguments. This hour, we begin with a story we've been covering for quite some time now. And every time we talk about it, I know your hearts break at home. It's because it's a story about children, two children, brothers, little Orrin and little Orson. They didn't have the best life. They ended up in foster care because there were some problems at home. Then they get adopted. And then they get adopted and they disappear, just disappear. Now they're parents, the ones who adopted them, the ones who said, we will make your life better, the ones who said, we want to take care of these children. And they were given the gift of allowing, they allowed these parents to have these children because they're a gift. Children are a gift. It's not a burden. It's the toughest job in the world, but it's the greatest job in the world. And they were given this gift of these two beautiful children, two little guys, and they're both gone, missing. And now mom and dad are accused of the murder. We've got a big update on the case, a big development tonight. But for those of you who don't know the story of the Cal City toddlers, Orrin and Orson West, Brianna Willis from our affiliate KERO has a look at the timeline of this story.
Where are the boys? Where are the boys? Where are the boys? Where are the boys?
It was December 21st, 2020. Orrin and Orson West, also known as Classic and Sincere, were first reported missing in California City by their adoptive parents, Terzell and Jacqueline West. Days after that time, the West parents telling 23 ABC they understand that people would accuse them of the disappearance.
And that's understandable. What's your response to that?
That's understandable. I would think the same thing.
And the Cal City Police Chief John Walker assuring the community his department was looking for clues day in and day out at the start of the investigation.
We're just trying to dig up anything, any clues that we can possibly find to find out where they had gone and also to confirm that they're not in the backyard.
The disappearance prompting a massive search effort involving not only Cal City Police, but the Bakersfield Police Department, the FBI, and the community. Then month after month, the community rallied together for searches, marches, and vigils, all to find the boys.
Where are the boys? No boys, no beats! Where are the boys? No boys, no beats!
And reward money for information and the return of the boys continued to grow in 2021 as local businesses, community members, and a private investigator joined the search efforts for the boys.
There was some elements that stood out about the foster families' interviews that pretty much compelled me to participate and come out and do what we could to help find both of these boys.
Billboards with the boys' faces and the rewards started to appear in February 2021 in Kern County. But after 8 weeks, Cal City Police confirmed they have no suspects in the case. And March 1st, 2021, the Bakersfield Police Department officially took over the case. They continued the search in Cal City and Southeast Bakersfield for the boys, issuing a search warrant to the adoptive grandparents and more than 20 more search warrants in the case. It wasn't until June 2021 BPD gave an update on the case, announcing 170 items have been seized, 83 individuals have been interviewed, 44 search warrants have been conducted, 16 mass area searches have been done, 3 searches outside of California, and 200 plus tips have been received and followed up on, but still, the boys have not been located. Then month after month, the community continued to come together with prayer vigils and hoping for answers for the boys. But December, nearly 1 year after they were first reported missing, BPD provided an update saying since June, they executed 4 more search warrants, interviewed 33 more people, conducted 11 mass area searches, and 4 out-of-state searches. During the 1-year anniversary, we spoke to the biological family who said they just want answers.
Some kind of answers. It's been a year. We deserve something.
Yes, yes.
That's, I mean, it's only right.
Orson's biological father saying regardless of the circumstances, he will always be here for the boys.
I still got them. They should know that I still love them, that I'm always going to have their backs regardless of the fact those are my kids. Like, you know, that's something that you'll miss in life that you can never get back.
Now, just 14 months after they were first reported missing, the Kern County grand jury indicted the adoptive parents, Terzell and Jacqueline West, for the murder of Orrin and Orson West. They were arrested March 1st around 7 p.m. near Highway 58 in Enos Lane. Kern County District Attorney Cynthia Zimmer announcing the investigation unveils that the boys are dead. But Zimmer added that the bodies have not been found, and now the family is still searching for answers.
The question is now, where are the boys' bodies? We want to be able to bring them home and, give them a proper burial.
Now the big news tonight, and I think this is very telling and could give us some insight into some of the evidence in this case. The judges confirmed that a criminal protective order was granted in this case. What does that mean? That means that the judge, Chad A. Louie, granting a criminal protective order. Public wasn't allowed into all parts of the hearing, but local media that attended part of the Tuesday hearing reported that the protective order was to prevent the couple, the accused murderers, from contacting their biological and adopted children, the other 4 children. Reports also indicate that the prosecution's motion seeks to stop the parents from talking about the case with the kids or persuading or intimidating them. Are they going to be witnesses in this case? Is that possible? That one or more of the other 4 children in that home know something, saw something? Let me bring in tonight's guests. We've got a great panel tonight. In Los Angeles, California, retired FBI special agent and producer of Indivisible Healing Hate, which is streaming on Paramount Plus, Bobby Chacon is with us. In Chicago, Illinois, private investigator Erica Morse. In Lancaster, California, joining us by phone is Matthew Wallace from the AV News Crew channel on YouTube, AV Antelope Valley, where all this is happening. And in Denver, Colorado, reporter who's been covering this case from the beginning, and is now a reporter with our great affiliate KMGH, Denver 7, Bayan Wang is with us as well. Great to see everyone. Bayan, I want to get your reaction tonight to this development, the development that there's an order preventing these parents, these accused murderers of their 2 youngest children from contacting their other 4 children.
Yeah, I mean, to make it nice and short here, not surprised at all. I'm sure you're not surprised at all. I mean, prosecutors made it clear that they believe the adoptive parents induced one of the kids to commit or assist in the commission of one of the crimes. I believe it's for the willful cruelty crime. And from the early onset of this investigation, police took the kids away from the parents. I think it was a day or 2 since, the kids, Orrin and Orson, reported missing. The state took them and said, we're going to hold on to them during this investigation. We asked law enforcement early on, hey, why is that? California City Police Chief John Walker tried telling us that in these types of cases, this may be protocol on top of whether we found evidence of neglect or abuse for any of the other kids. So the fact that, a judge is granting this for, the parents not being able to see or talk to the other kids, not surprising at all.
Matthew Wallace, AV News Crew, check out these videos. Unbelievable work you're doing out there, Matthew. Let me ask you, what do we know about the family, the children, did you ever talk to anyone out there who saw Orrin and Orson West in Cal City?
Well,
A couple of the neighbors stated they saw children right after they moved into the location, but what they said was they couldn't guarantee it was the toddlers, but there were young children at that home. And originally it was stated something about moving in October, but then recently we were given information that they actually got the keys for that home on September 10th for the Cal City home.
September 10th, and that puts us in the time frame of when this these murders allegedly occurred, according to the indictment. That's huge.
Yes.
Erica Morse, your thoughts about this development and these other 4 children that were in that home?
Well, you're dealing with minors who may be witnesses. You're dealing with minors who may have involuntarily assisted in aspects of this crime in order to preserve their own safety and save their own lives and the lives of their siblings. It is no surprise that we are at a point of a criminal protective order. It is no surprise that that everything is sealed regarding this case now, that there is a gag order in play. These are children, and these are children whose lives are completely uprooted and changed forever, and the level of trauma that exists now has to be dealt with in the long term. But also, children are so easily persuaded, and it makes no sense why the parents, both from the biological and the adoptive standpoint, were even allowed visits with these kids the moment they were removed from their care. I think that this should have been done initially, but I'm just glad that it's done.
Bobby Chacon, what does this tell you about what's going on?
Well, I think this tells me something that is common to these types of cases, and that is that the day these boys were deceased, were killed, as alleged in the charging instruments, is not the first time this story begins. I think there's going to be a pattern of abuse, a long-term running pattern of abuse of these 2 and maybe other children at house, which is why they have to be protected, because they're going to be witnesses to that pattern of abuse that was taking place in that house. That pattern of abuse might have been already heard by the grand jury. Certainly, if they have that evidence, it will be heard by the jury at trial. So I think that this protective order is moving in that direction to say, you know, we're going to tell a story here. The prosecution's going to tell the story of what was happening inside this house in the months and maybe even years prior to these murders taking place. So I think that in these cases, it is common that these children have witnessed a pattern of abuse that led up to and escalated to the murder of these 2 poor boys. And so I think that that's what the protective order helps, is to isolate the perpetrators from potential witnesses. You never really want that happening. And so I think it's you know, I agree with Eric. I think it should have been done right away as soon as they were charged. But it's good that it's happened now.
Yeah, I'm looking at a picture of the parents. There they are. They were wearing masks that day when they gave that infamous press conference. I'm glad they did, though, because we got to hear them and judge them to a certain extent in terms of their story. Bayan Wang, the part of this story to me that I still don't get, and I've covered many cases where young children have died and parents have been accused, but it's usually one child. And when it's one child, the backup is always, oh, it was some accident, right? It was something, but this is 2 children. It can't be an accident with 2 children.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what the big question is, and that's what the prosecution is going to have to prove. How that all ends up, I have no idea. Remember, there's still no bodies found in this case, but they cited direct and circumstantial evidence that led them to believe that Orson and Orrin West are sadly no longer alive.
Matthew Wallace, and again, we have not found Orrin and Orson. Right? They're still missing. They are somewhere. They're somewhere. They could be somewhere in that Cal City location. They could be in Bakersfield. We don't know. Tell me about on the ground in Cal City, the search, what the area is like, where people looked, how long these searches were, and things that you noticed along the way.
in regards to searching in the area for Cal City itself, the Cal City area, it's a very large small town, which means there's a small population, but a very large area. And it's mostly desert area. So, I mean, there's mines out in that area. There's little, you know, there's a couple of small lakes close to there. And in regards to searching, people search for days and days and days. I mean, people are still searching. We went out to lakes. We walked rivers. But when you start looking at what's coming out nowadays, you know, where do you really start? You have to start all over from the very beginning and try and go back actually a few months.
Yeah, expand on that. What do you mean?
Well, originally on December 21st of 2020, they were called in as missing children, okay? And now it's stated that the crimes actually happened back somewhere in the month of September. So now you have to grab everything and you have to try and go back and, you know, I'm going to go back. I'm going to start talking to neighbors again because there were neighbors that did say that they heard what sounded to them as domestic violence coming from that home.
Wow.
In Cal City. But do we know that the boys were there? No, we do not know for sure that the boys were there. We don't know if the boys made it from Bakersfield to Cal City or not, which, you know, it leaves a very large opening. And it's been a very unusual case. Very unusual.
Absolutely.
Because it looks like there's a huge cover-up, is what it appears to be.
Erica Morse. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Finish, Matthew.
Oh, no. I mean, with the adoptive family, I mean, even if you go back and you look at the videos, even after the boys went missing, Jacqueline's mother showed up with some other foster children to that home to visit.
Let me ask you, Erica Morse, because that kind of leads to my question. Is there any, like, I'm trying to get to why. I'm going to presume here, they're presumed innocent. But if, in fact, prosecutors are correct that these parents murdered these children, is there any incentive to adopt a child and murder it? I don't understand why anyone would do that.
If you will remember my thoughts from our previous conversation on this case, I said it is time for us to stop paying foster parents. I firmly believe this, and Bobby and I know we agree on this subject. Children should not be transactional. And oftentimes when you see parents adopt children, their behaviors and their attitudes change. What they were once willing to tolerate, and I say that with air quotes, out of perhaps children with troubled backgrounds, traumatized children, children who have been victimized already and who have extreme behavioral disorders and issues. Those go from being a payday, so to speak, to a burden. And I have seen it too many times.
I think we lost our connection with
There,
we just lost your connection there just for a moment. Go ahead. Finish.
Okay, so yeah, we have to stop making children transactional, and we need to start really doing further in-depth background checks, and I firmly believe psych evaluations on anyone who wants to be an adoptive parent.
Absolutely. Well, Bayan Wang, we appreciate your time. I know you're busy out there in Denver, but we bring you on every time we do the story. You know it from the beginning. Matthew Wallace, thank you as well, Matthew. I know you're busy today, too. AV News Crew on YouTube. If you want more on this story, check them out as well. Erica and Bobby are staying with us because when we come back, we're going to open up tonight's unsolved case file. We'll be right back.
faster than your case.
It is time to open up tonight's unsolved case file, and this is where we're asking for your help. Because in many, if not most of these cases, somebody knows something. And we need you to pick up the phone tonight, make the call, help investigators, but more importantly, help the families that are aching. I mean, they need an answer. They deserve an answer. They deserve justice. Tonight's story comes to us from WRTV, our affiliate in Indianapolis. Adam Shooms is the reporter, and it's all about a young woman named Naja Farrell. Let's listen.
It's a mother's cry for answers.
I don't want another family to have to deal with anything like this. And it's because, we don't have closure, too.
Naja Farrell's mom, Paula Golson, asking for prayers tonight.
Sometimes, you can kind of grasp your mind around it when you have a physical body and you've gone through the process of saying goodbye, One day I talked to her, the next day she was gone. It's like a disappearing act.
The 30-year-old from Avon was last seen when she left for work on March 15, 2019, but she never made it there. 11 days later, her car was found abandoned on Interstate 465 near Lafayette Road in Indianapolis, with some of her belongings left along the roadway.
It's affected everything.
Yeah.
It's affected our family, these two lovely boys. It's affected our marriage. It's affected our well-being altogether.
Yeah.
Because whatever they feel, we feel.
Naja's mom, dad, and Naja's two boys wearing Naja's favorite colors draped across their chest.
Thomas, he was like, man, I just want to know what happened to my mom.
It symbolizes that Naja is still here, and it's a reminder that they just want justice.
And her picture is inside this butterfly here. She had a butterfly because she liked the rebirth.
And to bring closure to a family that has waited 3 long years for answers.
What would you do as a family if you missed someone and a loved one and one day their lives changed?
Okay, please, if you have any information, call the Crime Stoppers of Central Indiana. The number is 317-262-8477. 317-262-8477. Maybe you saw something on I-465. Maybe you heard someone say something. Just pick up the phone, make the call. Still with us tonight, retired FBI special agent and producer of Indivisible, Healing Hate. Make sure you check it out, streaming on Paramount+. Bobby Chacon is with us. Private investigator Erica Morse, and joining us by phone now in Indianapolis, Indiana. Special guest, Naja's mother, Paula Golson, is with us. Paula, thank you so much for joining us. Our thoughts are with your family. How are the two boys doing?
Again, thank you for having me. They're doing okay. They're doing what kids do, but we have several conversations about, and the thoughts about their mom. And the one thing that they say to me is, Nana, all I want to know is what happened to my mom. It's like we have no closure. We don't know what happened. And one day she's here and the next day she's gone.
I can't imagine having those conversations. Those are conversations that two little guys should not have to have, and a conversation a grandma shouldn't have to have. Can you do this for us tonight? Because there's people watching. There might be someone that has some information, but they're like, well, should I really, they're on the fence. They really don't want to. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to say anything. Tell us about Naja, please. Tell us about your daughter. Let us understand who she is.
Naja was a bright personality, very jovial, loved life. She loved life. She loved to have fun. She loved her family. And she also loved kids. She loved kids. And, she was a determined spirit, but yet she was always real. She was always, if you saw Naja, that's exactly who she was. There was no fakeness about her. She was just open and very outspoken and very determined, to do what she needed to do. She always was on the go, looking for whatever it was that would move her forward and be as productive as possible. She wanted her boys to live a good life and wanted them to be exposed to what the world had to offer them.
Wonderful mother, wonderful daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Let me bring Bobby Chacon, retired FBI special agent, into the conversation. Bobby, another part of this story, a development, it was 1 month after she went missing that they discovered her foot in a retention pond. I know you're expert in underwater searches. You did it for years with the FBI. Your thoughts about uncovering and figuring out what happened here and finding some answers?
Yeah, my first thought would be what led them to that pond, because there's a lot of bodies of water everywhere, and one of the things we used to have a problem with was knowing where to search, and even a large pond, if you don't know the specific place within that pond, you can spend days and weeks, maybe even longer, looking, because our underwater searches are very, very difficult, and you really have to know an area where you're searching, or else it can be a very, very lengthy process. So I would wonder what led them to that body of water, what led them to search that particular area, and then kind of move the investigation out from there. I'm sure they're doing that. I mean, obviously, it was a crucial part of the case. It turned the case from a missing persons to a homicide, and now there was some dismemberment, or there was some kind of trauma to the body, and so it was a huge development, right? And it moved the case forward, but now you have to take it from there, and you have to see why and how it ended up. Nadia ended up in that body of water, and so it's a big lead, and hopefully it's being used to kind of give them more direction as they move on.
Erica Morris, your thoughts tonight?
Mom, I just always want to start off with my deepest condolences, and thank you for coming on and being a voice, because it is so important for you to speak Naja's story right now. I have a question for you, Mom, before I get into the next thing I'm going to say. Do you have any suspicions by chance that there are ties to Northwest Indiana regarding this case?
Very little that I do. I mean, and you don't rule out that, but I think whatever happened to her was predetermined. Everything was calculated, I believe, because of the clues and how hard it is to find things, And I want to say, add on to what he was saying about that, after they found the foot, that it became a homicide, but from what the investigation tells me, that they haven't really determined that it was a homicide. So I'm a little bit confused about how they're classifying the case right now. And so, we have to meet with detectives to see what that's about.
Well, I'm glad you said that. Because I'm not sure that we're there yet either, unless they found something definitive and know something that you don't yet. Mom, I made a call about an hour ago, and if you don't have a private investigator, I'd like to offer you me and my team, because I am very close to where that foot was found. In the Crown Point region, and the fact that her car was found down south on 465, but remains were found out of Crown Point leads me to some suspicions maybe involving Gary or the Lake County region. And so I pulled my team in on this, got approval from everybody, and if you'll have us, we'll take this case, Mom.
I'm trying to figure out, because from what the investigators and the detectives tell me, because it's in their jurisdiction, they have to invite people in, and that's what they're telling me. And so after 3 years of investigation, and you're kind of coming up with anything, I think you would want to warn whoever would really want to come in and try to help you solve a case. So I've learned a lot of things being involved in this case and having this to happen, how, police work kind of goes. It's not like TV, so I know they have to invite you in on the case and kind of, you have to meet and that kind of thing to kind of gather, information or what have you. But right now when you're looking for answers, and if it's your child, it doesn't, I don't even think about jurisdiction. Whoever can help me, that's what I'm willing to do, because we're all trying to get to one answer, and that is what happened to my child. And the thing about it, when you talk about Northwest Indiana, and the thing about it, Naja, we didn't learn that Naja didn't make it to work that Friday morning. She had a shift at 5 o'clock that morning at Panera Bread. She had trained 2 days prior to that, and Friday was her official day for working. And Naja normally leaves about 4:15 because her job is only 20 minutes away on 465 going north. So I didn't understand when she put her children to bed that night, and the police told me the last time she was on the phone was at 10:30 that night. So from 10:30 to time for her shift, something happened to Naja. And, being over in the morning or over in the night somewhere to be in Northwest Indiana when she was at home asleep with her children. And then they saw her car at 320 come out of the complex, or some car that was identified as hers. They're not sure, but, that right there, that's a puzzle to me.
Well, let's do this, Paula. We're running out of time tonight. We will stay on the story, but stay on the line, and we'll get everybody connected here. And again, our thoughts are with your family, and we will be speaking with you again. Thank you so much, Paula. Thank you, Erica, as always, Bobby Chacon. Appreciate your valuable time. Still ahead. In Kern County, California, officers pursue a suspect who takes a hostage. We take a look at this extremely tense video with our own law enforcement experts.
Back away! We'll back up. Put it down. Back off of me now!
And in Atlanta, Georgia, officers try to save a man threatening to jump from an overpass. We break down what happened during crime time.
Be very, very careful. Please. We'll get you some help.
cash back in everything you buy.
It is crime time here on Closing Arguments. Let's bring in tonight's guests. Joining me, former Special Agent Supervisor for the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Jason Piccolo. Jason has served in law enforcement for over 20 years and was a U.S. Border Patrol agent. He's a veteran of Operation Iraqi Freedom and has worked in human smuggling and international narcotics trafficking, and is also the author of Out of the Shadows and the host of the Protectors podcast. Also with us, retired DEA Special Agent Ted Golden. Ted is a former Memphis police officer. He has 34 years of experience in law enforcement. He was with the Drug Enforcement Administration for 28 years. He's a trainer at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Center for Nonviolent Social Change, and he is a consultant with the DeKalb County, Georgia Juvenile Court. Great to have you both back. Dr. Jason Piccolo, Ted Golden. This video, intense, from the Kern County Sheriff's Office out in the Antelope Valley part of California. Suspect takes a hostage and is then shot by deputies.
911, what's the location of your emergency?
Yeah, I got somebody here with a sledgehammer and with a knife. He told me he'd give me a chance to be nice, and I was like, what are you talking about?
Don't get yourself any more trouble, bro. Just stop and drop the knife and drop the fire extinguisher.
Hey, somebody in there?
Back away! Dude, you gotta put that down. Back away! We'll back up. Put it down. Back off of me now! Go! Put your weapon away! With me. Stab me. Go! Go, go. Go.
Okay, are you okay, sir? Are you okay? Are you okay? Hey, are you okay, sir? Okay.
Wow, that poor man, but saved by the officers. How do you decide when to shoot in a hostage situation? This thing was, wow. Dr. Jason Piccolo, I'll start with you.
Well, the precursor to the events is that he was moving around with a knife, with a sledgehammer. He already threatened another individual. And when he grabbed that victim, and the victim was holding his knife back away from his body, what if the victim slipped? That knife would have plunged into him. He could have been holding him hostage. He could have done so much bodily harm, including killing the victim. The officers had to make the decision, split-second decision, and they had a one shot, stop the threat, and then they removed the victim from the situation. So everything in these situations comes down to that split-second decision by the officer, and he had to make the decision to end it.
Ted Golden, how about taking that shot? Is that an easy shot? Is that a difficult shot?
No, it's not. It's not an easy shot. It's training, training, training. It's instinct. It's knowing your weapon, knowing that you can take out the target. I used to make a comment all the time: if I can see it, I can hit it. And that's really what it's all about: is making sure that you're an accurate shot and knowing what your capabilities are. As an example, one of those officers might be an expert shot, and he might have been the one to take the shot. So you know you got to have confidence in yourself and know who you're with. It's just a bang bang situation. You got to make a decision.
Dr. Jason Piccolo, there's not a lot of room for error here, right? Because the hostage is right next to the suspect. Is there anything you do to get control of yourself? Because, I mean, your heart's pumping anyway, right? I mean, the adrenaline is going. Obviously, you train for this situation, but the situation itself, has to be even more intense. So how do you control? How do you control the heart rate, everything that you need to take such a precise shot and save a life?
Well, as Ted said, train under duress, train with your heart rate up, and train to take those difficult shots. You know, most police agencies, if they do it, are shooting 4 times a year. You have to get out there and you have to train on your own and with people who are competent trainers And if you can't find a competent trainers, train by yourself with what the skills you already know and become an expert at it. So when events like this do happen, you could take that shot under duress.
All right, Dr. Jason Piccolo, Ted Golden staying with us. Great job by the Kern County Sheriff's Office. Amazing work. When we come back, I've got another video for you, another tense situation, but a little different. A man on an overpass threatening to jump in Atlanta. We'll show you the response of APD next.
Or your money back.
Welcome back to our Crime Time segment. Still with us, Dr. Jason Piccolo and Ted Golden. Let's go to Atlanta, the APD. A man saved trying to jump off of an overpass.
feel so bad?
My family abandoned me, and I can't see them no more in my life.
You don't want to do that, sir. You're gonna make things a whole lot worse. You're gonna make things a whole lot worse for yourself and for your family. That's not a solution. That's a permanent solution to a short-term problem. Okay? Why don't you try to work your way back this way, and we can talk about it some more. No one's gonna hurt you. We're not gonna hurt you. We're not gonna mess with you. I understand. Be very careful. Be very, very careful. Please. We'll get you some help. We will get you some help.
I'm homeless too, and I'm stuck staying with my cousin, and I'm trying to get help for housing and stuff.
I understand.
They track me down.
Be very, very careful, sir.
Get to the homeless shelter.
Take it slowly. Take it slowly. Almost there, man. Good job. You made it. You made it. You want to go to ready to get some help?
I'll go to Atlanta Medical Center.
Okay. We'll take Atlanta Medical Center, all right?
The calmness is shocking to me in this situation. How are officers trained for this? Ted Golden, is there a different approach depending upon who the person is you're trying to help?
Well, talked a lady out from Memphis, Arkansas bridge once many years ago. And when you're working with somebody you trust, the other officer, you decide who's going to be the lead and who's going to be the guy that's going to grab her. So fortunately, he was able to have a good conversation with him. His confidence was there. The thing you got to remember is this: if they're going to do it, they would have done it already. So this tells you that he wasn't prepared to take his own life. He just needed somebody to listen to him. The only thing different I would do is I would have searched him before I put him in the ambulance to make sure he didn't have any weapons on him or in the bag.
Dr. Jason Piccolo, another example of how different each day can be for a member of law enforcement.
One day you're in an officer-involved shooting. The next day you have to show a maximum amount of compassion. And the thing is, officers are human. And you could tell as soon as the officer approached him, he acted kind, compassionate, and he was able to talk the individual down. And it goes to show you that every day, I mean, every time we do these clips, it's just, there's so many different parts, and you have to understand that police really are human, and they really want to protect and serve.
Yeah, it's, you know, you wonder, you know, if an officer doesn't respond, what happens here? And Ted, it could go really bad for a lot of folks. You jump off an overpass, there's cars underneath. I mean, it could be devastating to more than the man who wanted to take his life. What was that like for you, Ted, afterwards when you were able to get her down? What were you feeling?
Well, you know, I don't swim, so I didn't approach her. My other buddy did, but I was shocked at how the freeway moved, the bridge moved. Once we got her off the bridge, she was very emotional, distraught, clingy. It was raining, and it was a midnight shift. So she was having family problems. She just poured her heart out to us, and we had to put her in the squad car because we didn't have ambulances to come that quickly. And unfortunately, it's a one-way bridge. You got to go all the way to West Memphis, Arkansas, turn around and come back, which we had not done before, so we got a little lost. Took her straight to the hospital. But that was 40 years ago, 30, 35 years ago. I haven't forgotten it. It's like it happened yesterday.
Neither has she.
We all got PTSD.
Neither has she. Ted Golden, Dr. Jason Piccolo, thank you both. We'll be back.
Thank you.